There is a congenital hatred of Israel that is paying dividends for the left at this point, just perhaps not the kind that they wanted. Just to be clear, I don't care about Israel one way or another. To me, it is a distant land to which I have no connection and even less interest. However, the left view it, and perhaps not unjustifiably, as a settler colonial state, an outgrowth of Western imperialism. To them, this has become a totemic struggle in which the oppressed Muslim world finds a voice to fight back against their Western oppressors. The Muslim world doesn't appear to see it that way, though, given how little interest the Muslim countries seem to have in actually supporting Palestine. I'm sure that the average American would love the kind of border wall that Egypt has against Gaza, and both Egypt and Jordan don't seem to want to take any Palestinian refugees, and are having trouble with the ones they already have. But this isn't really what I wanted to discuss here. In recent days, the Israeli military drone-striked a humanitarian convoy belonging to World Central Kitchen, which is a non-profit dedicated to providing food to people in need. This attack killed 7 people, a dual citizen of the United States and Canada, and people from Australia, Gaza, and Poland. 3 of the victims were British nationals. This is, of course, atrocious. But the remarkable thing was the response from the British government, which was to essentially lodge a complaint with Israel as if we were speaking to a customer service helpline. At the time of writing, we've been informed that Israel is looking into the situation, which is terribly reassuring. But at least Netanyahu has expressed contrition. Naturally, this is a far cry from the kind of imperial actions which might have occurred from such an event just 100 years ago, in which the killing of Britons may well have resulted in a few broadsides. The discovery of the lack of British vim seems to have come as something of a surprise to a certain kind of leftist who is shocked that the descendants of the people who invaded almost every country on earth cannot muster more than a weary and half-hearted sigh of complaint. Talking heads whose daily output is anti-British hatred suddenly find themselves wondering, where is the pride that would otherwise spur the British into action? From whence is that sense of injured pride supposed to spring? Our country is decaying before our very eyes. The government gives British citizenship to literally millions of strangers, many of whom will simply tell us that they are here for ethnic revenge and make us pay for the privilege of having them take up half the social housing in our capital city, which, FYI, is now only 37% English. Every day, we are told the country would collapse without the millions of immigrants who are here, as if we can't do anything for ourselves. The country is run by unelected politicians who are not representative of its people, and you implore us to be nationalistic when it is against your enemy. Why should we? British citizenship means next to nothing anymore. What was, less than 100 years ago, the most desirable thing to hold has become debased and devalued after being given out so easily. When the news breaks that 3 British citizens have been killed, who knows who they might be? They could be folks from your hometown, or they could be fresh off the boat immigrants from Asia or Africa, and we are reliably informed that we have actually got magic soil, and that everyone who arrives in Britain is as British as the people who are lineally descended from Cheddar Man. In short, the sentimental bonds you're attempting to pull upon when you say 3 Britons were killed, aren't you outraged, have been weakened, because we don't actually know if we do feel any kind of kinship with them. To be British now is to be from anywhere, and not necessarily have investments in Britain. In fact, it may be that you benefit more if you deride Britain as much as possible. Moreover, the hatred against Britain from these lefty talking heads is only surpassed by their hatred of Israel. They have beaten us down so sufficiently that another state can murder 3 of our people, and there is only a very tepid public outcry, and even then, it's being led by people from who, on any other day, would call us hateful names for attempting to assert the will of our national superego. Are we supposed to listen to Dr. Scholar, who condemns us in the very same breath with which she demands we support the Palestinians.
Confess that I find it incredibly triggering to hear this widespread condemnation coming from the US, UK, EU, and the like over Israel's murder of the 7 World Central Kitchen team heroes that were there providing aid. Or look at the spineless Rishi Sunak. It's appalling. Wow. It wasn't appalling when you were giving all of your support to Israel's crimes against humanity. No. Now 3 British people get killed and murdered because of your complicity in funding and arming Israel. Now it's appalling.
What about Sanjita Miska, who appeals to the sanctity of the British passport while daily deriding the people she'd expect to sign up to fight for it? What about Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf's call, presumably informed by his Palestinian wife, to stop selling weapons to Israel? Are we supposed to believe that Humza is offended that British people were killed, or by the fact that it was Israel that did it?
White. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every Assistant Chief Constable, white. The Head of the Law Society, white. The Head of the Faculty of Advocates, white. Every Prison Governor, white. And not just Justice. The Chief Medical Officer, white. The Chief Nursing Officer, white. The Chief Veterinary Officer, white. The Chief Social Work Advisor, white. Almost every trade union in this country headed by people who are white. In the Scottish Government, every Director General is white. Every chair of every public body is white.
Every day they defile our flag, spit at our inherited traditions, and laugh at the powerlessness of the British people against the institutions our ancestors built as they further criminalise dissent as hate speech. Every time there is an Islamic terror attack, we are told by all of the institutions of this country, don't look back in anger. Isn't that the appropriate attitude to show when any of our own are killed by foreign hands? And now we are meant to be outraged and stand up for the nobility and worth of a British passport. I'm sorry to say that that time has passed, and you have taken it from us. You hacked away at the sources of pride in this country, and are shocked to find that now we no longer stand up for ourselves, against the people you hate, in defence of the people you pretend to love. Well, too bad. This country is in ruins, large parts of it occupied by strangers, with no end in sight. We have nothing to be proud of, and so you can't stir us to ancient patriotic sentiment on your behalf, because the second we did, you would deplore Britain and its empire and freak out over the energy you have unleashed. And the irony of all of this is, of course, that the 3 Britons who were killed by Israel were not immigrants. Apparently they were good people trying to do good in the world. Well, good luck with that, because the world is in a hell of a state at the moment. What an absolute tragedy. As a quick aside at the end of this, a lot of people have been asking me if I'll be bringing back This Week in Stupid. The daily podcast on lotuseaters.com is the best place to go if you're looking for that kind of content. I'm on there several times a week, and it's basically the same thing. I'll leave a link to the YouTube channel in the description, or you can watch it live on lotuseaters.com.